Thank you, admin. It would be nice to start drafting one because the more questions you can, have answered today, I'm guessing the better. So please, let's start crafting our questions, just before we get to the Q&A session. So a brief intro just about our speaker today. Dean is a very seasoned IT recruiter. He's got over, 8+ worth of experience just recruiting in the tech industry. Is based in Toronto, Ontario, and what he does primarily is to recruit for so many of his clients, and then his clients kind of range from startups to large organizations all the way to multinational in multiple verticals within the IT sector. IT, I mean software, mobile, web, and the list kind of goes on and on. He also recruits for project management roles, business analysis, infrastructure, operations, and so many, right? And then his clients, it looks as if they're all, they cut across a lot of industries here. So please, I'm sure a couple of us will have questions, what does it even mean to, break even into this industry? How can I work with you to get started? All those questions, please, let's have them on standby. And then I'm 100% sure Dean is going to do justice to, some of those questions we have. Pamela is asking if she can invite a friend with the link. Please, yes, the more the merrier. We haven't maxed out today's attendance, so please, just in case you don't have friends that can benefit from this session today, please invite them. We're just starting. This session is going to be for 90 minutes, so the more the merrier. Please, let's invite our friends. If you know who can benefit from this session, please forward the invite. It would be nice to have everybody on board. Another thing we all maybe should know about today's speaker is Dean is an avid social media content creator, and that is very rare. Hardly would you see an IT recruiter that is into content creation, and but it tells you the range our guest speaker for today has got. So I'm really excited to just listening to him today. He's got over 37K followers, and he's also a featured speaker of over 40 events just within the GTA region. I'm sure most of us will have maybe stumbled on his name on LinkedIn or just reading from our network. So please be on standby today. You're going to have so many of your questions answered. What Dean pretty much does in most of these events he attends is just discussing practical strategies related to job search and then recruitment. So wow, that tells me today's session is going to be very, very interesting. Dean, if you can hear me, if you're still on the line, so I have my screen minimized here. If you want
yes, I'm right here. I'm right here. Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Yeah. So if you want to take it away, we're eager to just we can't wait to hear what you have in stock for us today.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah. So just before Dean takes the text on, just a little bit about NIPCA, because recently, I think some individuals have been, asking to understand. Pardon my voice, guys. I know I'm struggling to talk. So NIPCA stands for Nigerian IT Professionals in Canada. It's a community because we realize the fact that to win in this part of the world, you need community. We can win individually, but when you want to win, like win very well, community is critical. One of the things that community can help you to achieve or to accomplish is to accelerate your career. There are folks that have been in this part of the world long before you came. They have seen different things. They have seen different scenarios. They have gone through several mistakes themselves. When you are coming in, community is critical to helping you with integration, settlement, and everything else you can think about. So that is really what NIPCA is at the forefront of championing. We started in 2018, and today with thousands of members across Canada. is a community where members are vulnerable. Vulnerable, you feel free to air your opinion without anyone judging you. That kind of environment is what really we want to see more of that within the Black ecosystem. Because Black people, especially, I'm very passionate about Blacks. Black people, we haven't had it easy. Sometimes you work twice as hard to get, how did they say it again? To get what? Somebody should complete it now on the chat. I want to see the completion. You work twice as hard to, if we don't complete it, then we are not continuing with this session. On the chat box, we Black people sometimes work twice as hard. Somebody said to get what you want.
Get half as much.
Thank you, to get half as much. I mean, if you work twice as hard to get what you want, there's no problem now. There's no issues. But the question is that sometimes you work twice as hard, and at the end of the day, you still get half. That is why community is important. If you are not being able to join the community, the link is just on the chat right now. Let's choose a minute to complete the form. Membership form, let's complete it, and admin will add you into the community so that you can join others. It's free. There's no membership fees or dues. You come in free, network with others, share information, share resources, collaborate, and build your network. That's what the community is all about. The link is on the chat. Make sure you complete that, and admin will add you in, okay? Having said that, Dean, of course, will take the driver's seat at this time. Personally, I call him the Dean of Tech Recruitment. He's a great guy. So let's allow Dean to, do justice to this topic. Dean, over to you.
Thank you so much, Osita. And I just wanted to say, Osita, I love your hat. I just love that hat. I have to get one for myself, I think. But thank you so much for having me, and thank you so much for inviting me. I think this is my my third or fourth time speaking at a NIPCA event. So for those of you who are new, I can tell you, it's an amazing, fantastic, friendly group to be a part of. And I just love coming back to speak, again and again at these events. And I'm always happy to support you, Osita, and your team. So that being said, today, folks, what I'm going to be speaking about is, as Temi introduced me, my perspective comes in as a tech recruiter. And I'm going to be sharing my tips and advice and strategies based on my experience as a tech recruiter, as someone who's been involved in many hiring cycles and interview cycles and recruitment cycles. And what I want to leave you with today is not just fluffy make-believe fantasy world stuff. I want you to leave here with practical, pragmatic stuff that you can actually take and use. I'm not here to motivate you. I'm not here to get you excited. I'm here to arm you with practical things that you can use in your job search, right? That's what I try to keep the information I share, that's what I kind of keep it at. So that being said, give me a few seconds. I'm going to share my screen here for my presentation. And if someone can kindly let me know in the comments when you can see my screen, if you can just let me know in the chat, and then we can kind of get this party started. Can everyone see my?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, it looks like, okay, awesome. So landing your dream tech job. So that's going to be today's topic. Now, for those of you who want to connect with me on social media, that's my link. I will share it in the comments later on, so don't worry if you don't get it. But as Temi mentioned before, I do post a lot of content on social media as well. So definitely make sure you follow me on social media. So today's agenda, what I'm going to be speaking about is, so for the first 45 minutes or so, I'm going to be speaking about number one, the foundation for your tech job search. So I'm going to be talking about the fundamentals, the key important stuff that you need to be focusing on in your job search. I'm going to be sharing some resume tips. I'm going to be sharing some top interviewing tips. And this is based on my experience interviewing, I don't know, maybe thousands of candidates over almost 10 years now. And finally, I'm going to be speaking about leveraging recruiters. And this is where I wanted to share with you very important tips from a recruiter's perspective on how you can nail and win those conversations with recruiters. So that should take about 45 minutes. And then I'm going to leave the remainder for a Q&A. All right. So it's going to be an open mic. I'd love to interact with all of you with your cameras on at that point for sure. While I'm going through the presentation, I won't be able to, maybe not be able to see and interact with all of you, but any questions you have, just take note of it. I want to make sure I get through the presentation, and then at the Q&A part, anything goes, no such thing as a bad question or a dumb question. Feel free to ask any questions, folks. This is a friendly, family-like environment, so don't be shy. And just take note of your questions. I'll get to that when we get to the Q&A part. All right. But that being said, feel free to comment along the way, and I will stop at the end of every section to see if there's any immediate questions I can respond to as well, depending on the time. So let's talk about the foundation of your jobs. And by the way, make sure definitely make sure you're ready to take notes in case you hear something that might capture your attention or you want to ask me about it later on. Definitely make sure you're taking notes. All right. So let's talk about the foundation of your job search. Now, when talking about the foundation, what I always like to start with when I'm talking job search with job seekers is, and a lot of people, they come to me, they're like, Dean, I'm struggling in my job search, and when you're not getting responses in your job search, you're not hearing back from recruiters, you're not hearing back from your application. The first thing many people do, and maybe some of you are doing this as well, is you start thinking something's wrong with you, like, oh, I don't have the talent, I don't have the intelligence, I don't have the ability. But the fundamental challenge in your job search is not a lack of talent or a lack of ability. And I'm not just saying that to make you feel good, but this is based on, again, hundreds and thousands of interactions with candidates over the years. I've rarely ever met a candidate in the tech space, which is where I recruit in, that was lacking in talent or ability. The key fundamental challenge, folks, and make sure you write this down if you're taking notes, the key fundamental challenge of your job search, and this is where everything else in your job search kind of starts with, and that is a lack of visibility. Okay, if you're taking notes, you want to write that down. The fundamental challenge of any job search is a lack of visibility. Now, what do I mean by lack of visibility? What I mean by that is, it's not that you're lacking in talent, it's not that you're lacking in ability, it's not that you're lacking intelligence. It means that the organizations you want to work for, the people you want to connect with, the recruiters you want to connect with, they're not aware that you exist. Right? You're lost in a pile of applications, a pile of resumes, maybe amongst hundreds and thousands of other resumes. You're not visible. That is the key challenge in your job search. So even after this session, as you're listening to other sources for job search tips and advice, and you're researching online, when you're examining any job search strategy, including mine, any advice I give to you from this point onwards, you should evaluate it whether or not it's practical, based on whether or not it increases your visibility as a job seeker, as a IT professional, as a tech professional. That is the fundamental challenge, right? And this is such a simple. It might sound very simple, but it's key to your success in your job search, because from now on, moving forward, all of you, as you're putting together your job search strategy, you're evaluating. Okay, should I do this? Should I do this? Should I do this? Should I do more of this? Should I do less of this? Do I do more of this? Should I use this a piece of advice? Oh, so-and-so gave me this advice. So-and-so gave me that advice. Well, whatever advice it is, whatever tactic or strategy it is, it should address this fundamental challenge, and that is increasing your visibility. Your resume, your those pre-screens, networking, attending events, right? Making new connections, asking for referrals, asking for introductions. All of these things contribute to this fundamental, right? Increasing your visibility in the marketplace. If people don't know you exist, I mean, you don't exist, right? Right now, as I'm looking at the people I see in the chat, I see Peter, I see Temi, I see Osita, of course, I see Nafisa, and I see other people here. Like, until I see you, I don't know you exist. And it's very much the same case in your job search. So everything you do in your job search should contribute to and build momentum for this fundamental, increasing your visibility in the marketplace. That's what it comes down to. Now, the other thing is, okay, so you understand this fundamental, and that is very important. But now the next thing is, you need to figure out what is your target, what is your end goal. Now, this particular thing is probably the one of the greatest setbacks I see so many talented people make, is not being clear on their target. And I'm going to call out all of you newcomers to the country right now. I'm going to call out the new graduates out there, because this is an area that I see many of you, especially many of you in those segments of the market, you're not really honing in on your target. What is your target? What are you aiming for? Do you want to get? Are you looking for business analyst positions? Are you looking for project management positions, software development positions, data analyst positions, data science? I don't know what it is, right? Only you know your target. And the reason why I mentioned this is, and why this is so important, is a lot of you think that mentioning multiple skill sets, multiple positions, is something that's going to benefit your job search, right? And from your perspective, I totally understand where a lot of you who are doing this, I understand why you're doing this. You want to show openness, you want to show flexibility, you want to show that you're a multifaceted, multi-skilled individual. So from your perspective, you're thinking, okay, you know, if I tell the recruiter I can do this, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this, they're going to see me as a high value person. So from that standpoint, I totally understand that. And you know, the logic kind of makes sense. But on the negative side, you're spreading yourself too thin, because from the recruiter's standpoint, what they're thinking is, and not just the recruiter, by the way, also the hiring manager, the hiring team, what they're thinking is, this person does not know which direction they want to take. They're not confident about what they want. They don't know which direction they want to take. They're spreading themselves too thin. They're aiming for business analyst roles. They're also aiming for software developer roles. They're also aiming for data analyst roles. They're also looking into, I don't know, skydiving and scuba diving roles, right? I'm exaggerating there, but this is the key problem when you spread yourself too thin. So always hone in on one specific type of role. I would say at the maximum two types of roles, right? Because some roles, you know, it makes sense for there to be a hybrid. For example, a business analyst / project manager. I've seen those. I mean, it's pretty normal. Project manager, scrum master, you know, so there are certain hybrid kind of positions that, you know, where it's fine for you to mention you're looking for one or two different types of positions. You know, those cases are fine. But other than that, you should focus on one specific type of role that you are aiming for. And that clarity and that specificity in terms of what you're aiming for, that communicates confidence. Because when I see someone who's very targeted in their search, what that tells me as a recruiter, and also what that tells hiring teams and hiring managers is, hey, this person is confident. They know what they want. They're not you know, veering off path. They're not swaying this way or that way, and you know, any other types of positions. They're very, very clear and confident about what they want, right? So this is another aspect of, in terms of a strong job search foundation. Now, going from there, you figured out what you want. You're focusing on one, maybe maximum two types of roles. Now you got to research the actual role itself. And this is another area I've seen many candidates not do their due diligence. You have to really research the market and see what are the typical prerequisites for these roles that I'm aiming for. Now, this is especially important for those of you who are coming in, maybe who are new to the country, or for those of you who might be new graduates, or maybe you're transitioning into a different career. You have to research, what is my local market? What are the target roles I'm looking for? And what are the prerequisites for these positions? And understanding the prerequisites, that's going to allow you to figure out not only, you know, what experience you need to have, what experience you need to highlight, what type of projects you need to highlight, and all that stuff. But also this also encompasses knowing what, getting information about the key salary and rate information as well. What's the average salary? What are the average rates? Like, these are all things that you need to be researching as well. While you're researching, what are the prerequisites for these positions that you're aiming for, right? Extremely important. Now, going from there, you also need to evaluate from there, what are the different channels I can use? Now, you notice I put in channels. That's the term I like to use to describe it, because I think it's better. It's a better kind of a visual component to figuring out how you're going to conduct your job search. So what are the various channels you can use to get to where you want to be? When I say get to where you want to be, I mean the roles that you're aiming for, right? What are the various channels? So you can apply directly. That's what a lot of you are probably doing. You're applying on the job boards, you're applying on LinkedIn, you're applying on the careers pages for the companies you want to work for. What are some other channels? You can use recruiters, right? Corporate recruiters, in-house recruiters. You can use staffing agency recruiters, industry events, social media. And I'll talk about these things a bit more later on, but these are all the various channels you can use. And you got to think about what are the channels you can also utilize as part of your job search. What you don't want to do is just focus on one thing, right? This is the frustration so many of you might have is you're thinking about the job search. At the most, what you're thinking about is, okay, I got to go online. I got to submit my resume. I got to apply for the role. Go to some company websites, go to their careers page, so upload my resume, submit. That's it. I mean, that's what the job search is, right? But it's not just that. Like, you have to evaluate what are all the avenues that I can use. So aside from directly applying, you need to be dedicating time every day to connecting with recruiters. Okay, recruiters such as myself. I know I'm more on the agency side, which means third-party recruiter. But don't ignore corporate in-house recruiters as well. Like, you have to approach these individuals as part of your job search, right? Tech recruiters. And I'm going to talk about tech recruiters in more detail later on in the presentation. But that's another avenue, right? Industry events. Are you researching in events going on in your industry? Now, most of you tuning in are in the tech industry. Are you researching events going on specific to your field, to your expertise, right? Right now, as we speak, there might be events going on, not just big, when I say events, don't just think about these big, huge, thousands and thousands of people in attendance. I'm not talking about just those kind of events. I mean, small, intimate groups as well, right? Kind of like this group right here, right? NIPCA, Black Tech. I mean, it's a nice, nice intimate group here. And you need to be researching groups connected to your industry and your field, right? There's groups out there dedicated to software developers, to business analysts, project managers, program managers, infrastructure people. I mean, there's a multitude of different types of events and groups out there. And this is also another part of your job search strategy. This is where you're going to meet people, you're going to connect with people, you're going to network with people. So there's that as an avenue as well. And that's how you make yourself known in your industry too, right? Attending these events. And finally, of course, social media. Now, a lot of you, the mistake you're doing is you're getting used by social media. You're not using social media, right? You're going through LinkedIn, you're going through the posts. Maybe you're commenting here and there, maybe you're liking posts. But each and every one of you who are watching this, you have a talent, you have an ability, you have a talent, you have gifts, you have the ability to solve problems, right? And especially those of you in tech, I know most of you tuning in here are in the tech industry, IT industry. You have the ability to solve multi-million-dollar problems. I'm not exaggerating. I know a lot of you already know this. Like you have the ability to solve and be involved in these multi-million-dollar huge projects. So why would you not be a more visible presence on especially LinkedIn? Right? LinkedIn, I would say, is the popular platform right now, especially for people who are professionals. It's not just about going on LinkedIn and saying, hey, my name is so-and-so, I'm looking for a job and blah, blah, blah. Yes, you can do those posts. Yes, those types of posts sometimes, I don't know how, but they go viral. And those people might get, job opportunities and stuff like that. But the rest of us, I mean, we can't depend on our just one random post going viral. You need to be going on LinkedIn. You need to be talking about all the amazing things you've accomplished, right? Problems you can solve, projects that you've been a part of, right? These are the things that are going to capture the attention of hiring managers, hiring teams, recruiters that are scrolling through LinkedIn. You have to, each and every one of you should establish yourself as masters in your domain, because maybe your job search is not going well. Maybe it's not going ideal right now, but you have expertise. You have knowledge, you have experience, you have previous wins and successes from your home country. All that needs to be communicated, because you need to communicate that, because that's the value that you're going to bring to the table. And I'm going to talk about that a bit more when I'm talking about the interview tips, because that's going to be very important moving forward. Now, a simple mapping exercises, and I'll just quickly draw it out here on this sheet of paper. But for those of you who are visual, just draw a little graphic like this. Hopefully you folks can see this, right? That's myself right there, right? And what I do is I'm going to draw out a map, like all these different avenues I can use. So I can use the job boards, I can use the networking events, right? I can use LinkedIn. What else? I can use recruiters, right? Corporate recruiters. I can use staffing agencies, right? You need to be doing, it's like a brainstorm thing, right? See, you got to map out your job search just like that. It's real easy to kind of see, and it helps you expand your options, right? It's a very simple exercise you can do. So you need to map out all the different angles and channels you can use as part of your job search, right? And that's going to help you stay organized day to day, because your job search, you need to treat your job search, especially for those of you who might not be employed at the moment. Maybe you have more time on your hands. You need to treat your job search like it's a 9 to 5. It's a job, because it is a job, folks. It takes that much effort to land yourself a job, right? 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock in the morning, what are you doing? 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock, what are you going to be doing? 12 to 1, your lunch break, right? 1 to 2, what are you going to be doing? Well, you can add a lot of variety to it, right? You can do each and every one of these things. I just put a few ideas here, but just to give you an example of how you can be mapping out your daily job search strategy and your job search plan. right? And that being said, I also wanted to signify, never depends solely on applying for a job and waiting for a response, right? This is a very passive approach, because again, you can be just one of hundreds or thousands of applicants applying for a job. Now, before COVID, the statistic was, and feel free to Google this after this session, but prior to COVID, the statistic was for every job opening, on average, there are 250 applications. And I can promise you folks, tech recruiters are not going through each and every one of those 250 applications, especially if and because most tech recruiters are not recruiting on just one role. We're usually recruiting on at least, 5, 6, 7, 10, sometimes 10, 20 different roles at the same time. So just do the math on that, right? I mean, we're not going to go through each and every one of those applications. So this is where you got to make use of multiple channels, right? This connects to what I was talking about, different channels. And another channel you got to use is making direct contact with the people you want to potentially work for at the companies you want to work for, right? If it's an agency, if it's a recruiter, you got to make direct contact with the recruiters as well, right? So the key point here is do not depend solely on applying for a job and then waiting for a response. This is extremely important. I don't want any of you to be passively waiting. Do not wait for things to happen, folks. You got to make things happen as well. You got to take that proactive step, right? So that being said, what you got to do next is, okay, you got in front of the people, you got the attention of the recruiters, you got the attention of hiring teams. What you got to do next is you got to leverage, and what you got to leverage is what you do have. The experience you have, the knowledge you have, the experience you have, the educational qualifications you have, the certifications you have, all of that stuff you bring to the table. Now, special note, especially to the newcomers to the country. Some of you might be getting some bad advice out there that, oh, you're from, some other country and that experience is not going to count here because you need Canadian experience. Now, I don't know about other industries because I've 100% always recruited in tech, in IT. In IT, I mean, the whole Canadian experience thing, it just makes zero sense because tech, no matter where it is in the world, it's the same. Okay, there's no such thing as, I don't know, Microsoft Nigeria and Microsoft Canada. There's no such thing. Like the technology itself is the same, right? So stop thinking that all of that experience you have in Nigeria or India or China or wherever you're from, all of that 100% counts. As long as you can back it up, as long as you can talk about it, as long as you can elaborate and delve into the details regarding your past experience. As long as you can do that, all of that experience 100% counts, folks, but you have to be able to communicate it and communicate it with confidence. So again, this is a special note to those of you who are newcomers to the country, because I see this mistake all the time. And I see this in my conversations with newcomers to Canada all the time. They're like, Dean, I heard that only Canadian experience counts. What do? I'm new to the country. Well, it doesn't make any sense for anyone to you. And first of all, it's illegal for any company to say that, they require Canadian experience, right? And anyone giving you that advice, it's bad advice. Now, are there companies out there? Are there hiring managers out there that might be, maybe off the books, a little, discriminatory towards people from other countries? Unfortunately, yes, people like that do exist. But in the majority of cases, what most hiring teams care about, what most recruiters care about is, what you do have, that experience you do have from, whatever country you're from, as long as you're able to talk about it, explain it, expand on it, elaborate on it, communicate it. You're on good, solid ground, but it's up to you to be able to communicate that confidently, right? So just keep that in mind. Now, outside of that, what else can you leverage? Are you also, maybe you have your own portfolio of your own projects. Now, this is a great example of this is if you're a software developer, you should always be, my opinion, you should always be developing your own applications, your own projects on the side, which you can show the hiring managers that you might be meeting with, right? This is just more stuff that you can leverage when you're in front of these hiring managers. Extremely, extremely important. And this is the same thing for the new graduates out there who might be joining in as well, right? This is a common thing I hear from new graduates is, oh, Dean, well, I'm a new graduate. I don't have any professional work experience. So how am I going to sell myself to hiring managers? How am I going to interview when they ask for experience? Well, the key thing in whether it's a new graduate, whether you're a newcomer, whether it's a junior role or a senior level role, the key thing, folks, is they want to know that you have the ability to do what you say that you can do, right? So if you're a new graduate, for example, don't give me that excuse, oh, Dean, I don't have any professional work experience. No, maybe you don't, but you do have academic projects that you have worked at, right? You've done projects at school, you've done projects in the college or the university or the transition program that you were part of. Well, you have to leverage those projects because that's what's going to be able, you're going to be able to leverage to show, hey, I don't have professional work experience, but here, this is what I've done in my recent studies. This is what I can do. These are my abilities. And that's really what counts, right? And the other thing is, of course, any training you've taken, any certifications you've taken, you need to be highlighting this on your resume as well. And I'm going to be talking about resumes on the next slide, but folks, leverage everything you can use that you've done, you've accomplished, you've achieved. You got to use it as leverage, right? Now, for those of you who are transitioning from maybe other careers, okay, maybe you are in a non-tech profession. You're like, Dean, I want to get into tech, but I'm from a different field. You know, I was in I don't know, customer service, or I was in oil and gas. I was in banking. Now I want to transition into IT. What can I do? I don't have any professional experience or nothing. Well, this is where you got to take some time aside from training, aside from certification, which I do encourage you to do in that situation because you don't have any previous skills or knowledge in tech. But aside from that, you need to take inventory of all of your transferable skills, right? Now, if you're a customer service person, for example, you want to transition into a BA role. What are the common areas that overlap between customer service and business analysis? Well, definitely the communication, right? You're dealing with people, you're dealing with stakeholders, you're dealing with difficult situations. You got to deal with problematic people. You got to make people calm down. You got to communicate information in a very easy to understand manner to the client, right? So these are some overlapping areas. So you got to focus on, if you're transitioning from a different field into tech, you want to leverage those transferable skills and knowledge. So this is where you got to take a sheet of paper out, right? For those of you who might be in this situation, I want you to, for homework today, you have to write down all of those transferable skills that you can leverage from your previous career into tech, right? Very important piece of advice I have for those of you who are transitioning into IT. Okay, that being said, we're going to go into the resume tips. I'll quickly check the chat if there's anything required for clarification. Abisodun says very true. Absolutely, Abisodun. Thank you for your comment. So that being said, let's get into some resume tips. Now, I'm not gonna go over the basic stuff. I'm gonna be going over some stuff that's more so I see a lot of people kind of overlook in regards to their resume. By the way, there's a lot of resume advice out there, everyone. So I'm just gonna be going over some key stuff. So and I'm trying to compress this into 45 minutes. So bear with me. If there's any additional questions in regards to resumes, feel free to save it for the Q&A. I'm gonna get to any of your questions, any and all of your questions at that point. But look, my first tip, and this is something I see many people do as a mistake, is folks, avoid tables, avoid graphics, avoid fancy fonts, avoid colors, right? Weird, strange color combinations. All of these things, first of all, it can make it very difficult for the recruiter or the hiring manager to read your resume. And secondly, if your resume might look fancy and nice and stuff like that, but something I like to say is a resume might be human friendly, but that does not make it ATS friendly, right? If you're taking notes, you want to write that down. If it's just because the resume is human friendly does not make it ATS friendly. Now, when I say ATS friendly, this is where the tables, the graphics, the fancy fonts and colors, this can really mess things up when submitting your resume to an ATS. And just to give you a very brief overview in regards to the ATS is when your resume is submitted to an ATS, the recruiter, when they come across your resume within the ATS, they're not individually downloading each and every resume. What happens is most ATS systems, they convert your resume into a format that's readable within the ATS system. So that prevents the recruiter from spending time down, click on it, save as, download, click, save, download, view, click, save, down, it saves a whole bunch of time on that. Now, when you put tables, graphics, fancy, weird fonts, colors, and all that stuff, sometimes not every ATS out there is going to properly convert it into that readable format within the ATS. So sometimes what happens is it ends up everything looking scrambled up, right? So keep it very, very, simple, straightforward. Avoid the tables. I sometimes like to say, the more boring your resume looks, the higher the chances are it's going to be very easy to look at in the ATS. When I say boring, what I mean is, it's just got your name, your address. The next section is your professional summary. Next section is your skills. Next section is professional work experience. Keep it very simple, folks. Okay. No need for anything fancy. Keep it very simple because simple means it's practical, right? So reverse chronological or functional. So some people sometimes ask me, Dean, should I do a reverse chronological resume? Should I do a functional resume? My advice, I mean, 99% of the time, all of you should be using reverse chronological. Okay, so that means you list your most recent work experience, and then the previous work experience to that, and then the previous to that, and so on and so forth, right? Start with the most recent and work yourself backwards. The problem with functional is, and you know, I've done an informal kind of survey with my fellow recruiters and people that I worked in the industry as well. I mean, 99% of the recruiters out there say, Dean, I hate functional resumes. They're confusing for recruiters to read. It's very confusing because, you know, things are not chronological. You got some projects over here, some projects over there. It's like, you know, it's just very confusing and very difficult to read. So my suggestion is stick to reverse chronological resumes. 1 or 2 page resume myth. All right, so you get the advice, hey, Dina, I heard that I got to keep my resume to 1 or 2 pages. I would say that is the least of your worries, folks, especially for those of you who are at a senior level in your career. I personally think it's impossible to get to compress 10 to 15 years of experience into 1 or 2 pages. All right, so if your resume is beyond 2 pages, don't worry about it. Calm down, relax, you know, take it easy. Don't worry about it. I've never turned down a resume. I've never ignored a resume just because it was more than 2 pages. What you mostly want to focus on is, does my resume communicate my value? That is the more important thing. Now, for those of you, the only ones of you out there who should worry about 1 or 2 pages is if you're a new graduate or you're a junior level, you know, tech professional, right? I mean, that's the only reason why your resume should be strictly 1 or 2 pages. The rest of you, you have a couple of years of experience. You're a senior level tech professional. It's fine if it's a couple of pages. Even for I've read resumes that were up to, you know, 7, 8 pages for senior level tech professionals. Amazing, fantastic individuals, right? Because I'm able to gather more information about who they are, what they did, all their projects and stuff like that. Now, that being said, don't go crazy now. Don't go crazy on me and do like, you know, 20, 30 pages. I'm not saying that. Unless it's federal government, federal and provincial government. Oh my God. I mean, they love long resumes. When I recruited for, you know, the provincial and federal government, it's completely fine for your resume to be 20, 30 pages. I mean, they love long resumes. I don't know why. They have some point system that they do behind the scenes. So if you're applying for federal, provincial government, feel free to go crazy. All right, go as crazy as you want. But for private sector, you know, don't go too crazy on that. Don't make it like 15, 20 pages. Keep it, you know, 10 pages max, I would suggest. But other than that, if it's beyond 1 or 2 pages, don't worry about it, especially if you're a senior level. Now, 4 things you want to highlight in work experience. Now, these are 3 areas you definitely want to highlight when you're talking about your work experience on your resume, all right? When you're talking about each of your positions, and that is skills, project types, industries. Now, the reason why I'm mentioning these 3 areas first is these are the 3 areas, like us recruiters, when we meet with hiring managers, these are the areas that they ask us to focus our search on. Dean, we're looking for someone with XYZ skills. That is 100% going to be the case all the time. They're going to be asking us to look for specific technical skills or skills related to the field, right? The second area is project types. Dean, we need you to find a Java developer who has experience working on accounting applications. We need you to find a Java developer working on, I don't know, CRM applications, ATS applications, types of projects, right? And then the third type is industry types. Dean, we need to find a Java developer who has extensive experience working in the construction industry, the finance industry, the banking industry, the oil and gas industry, etc. Right? So the point I'm trying to make here is, as you're discussing each of your positions, make sure you're highlighting these 3 different areas, because these are the 3 areas that are going to capture the attention of recruiters. They're going to want to definitely 100% of the time, they want to know your skills, but also make sure you mention the types of projects you worked on and also the industry as well, right? If it's not clear what the industry is, make sure you mention that for each of your work sections as well, or if not, at least in your summary, right? And finally, the outcomes. This is extremely important. You want to talk about the outcomes and you want to quantify those outcomes. This is the key missing component I've seen in so many resumes. You have to talk about outcomes, because ultimately that's what the hiring manager, the hiring team, they want to know is, what are the potential outcomes this individual can achieve, help us achieve, right? Because a lot of you're talking about what you did, but you're not connecting with the outcome. So always talk about the outcomes. And feel free to ask me questions about this, folks, because I know I'm kind of tight on time and I want to get through the rest of the presentation. So feel free to, if you have any questions about this, feel free to ask. I'll get to it in the Q&A as well. Now, the next part is how you're describing your experience. Now, a lot of you, what you're doing is you're talking about what you did, right? Performed XYZ, did XYZ, completed XYZ. You're talking about what you did, which is great. You want to continue doing that. But the missing component is you want to connect what you did with the problem, as well as what I previously mentioned, the outcome, right? This is going to provide context, and it's also going to provide more indication about your value, right? That's what the outcome does, is it communicates your value, what you can potentially help this employer achieve. And the problem is more so for context, right? So talk about what you did, connect it with a problem, and then connect it with an outcome. So you can say performed XYZ in order to address blah, blah, blah problem, which resulted in ABC outcome, right? Whatever the outcome is. And the outcome, as much as possible, see if you can connect the outcome with some kind of quantifiable end result, right? Money saved, revenue saved, time saved, revenue increased, right? Costs reduced, time, et cetera, et cetera. Percentage of increase in efficiency. I don't know, whatever, you get what I'm saying, right? You're not going to be able to do that for every single thing that you did, but as much as possible, see if you can connect it with a quantifiable end result. Otherwise, what's going to happen is your resume is going to pretty much is going to read like a job description, which is that what I've written here in this bullet, the job description test. What I mean by that is, if you read over your resume and it reads like a job description, that means you're not putting enough focus on the problems and the outcomes. So always connect the what you did with the problem as well as the outcome. Now, the most important part is you got to know your resume inside and out. If there's a bullet point on your resume that even if it's from a few years back, if you can't point at it, if you can't elaborate, expand on what's mentioned in that bullet point, you might as well not have it on your resume, folks, because you never know what's going to capture the attention of the hiring manager, especially in those cases where you don't know enough about the requirements for the role. So you want to make sure that you are the expert, because look, ultimately you are the expert on your resume. It's your resume. No one should know about your resume better than you do. So know your resume inside out, refresh yourself on each and every one of those bullet points, each and every one of your projects prior to the interview. So you're able to elaborate and further expand on whatever is mentioned on the resume. Remember, you are the expert of your resume. Now, top interview tips. So the purpose of the interview. Now, a lot of people say, Dean, think that, hey, Dean, the interview is about me being very slick, me sounding very slick and witty and intelligent and stuff like that. Well, not entirely the case. And then there's this other group that's like, Dean, the interview is about, hey, impressing the hiring manager, making sure that, I'm talking about them and blah, blah, blah. No, it's not that either. The real purpose of the interview actually comes down to the intersection between you and the hiring manager, you and the hiring team. And that intersection is the problem, right? And that is the one reason why hiring managers are looking to hire, right? It's not for fun. It's not because, at least in most cases, it's not because they have some extra budget, but it's because they have a problem, right? That problem is connected to a project, a set of outcomes they want to achieve, something that requires them investing in your knowledge, your experience, your skill set. So the purpose of the interview is to figure out, hey, can this person sitting in front of me, can they help us with this problem or challenge or these set of outcomes that we want to achieve? That is the fundamental behind interviews, right? So don't think that it's just about you. It's not just about you. It's not just about the organization. It's not just about the hiring team. It's about the intersection. And that intersection revolves around the project, the problem, the set of outcomes, the ROI that they want to achieve. That is what you want to focus on. And that is what you want to use as the leverage as to how you can present yourself to them and how you can help the organization and how you can help them. And the sooner you're able to figure this out, folks, the greater your ability to focus on what's important, right? Just like I say in that bullet point, because that's ultimately what's going to get their attention, because, they don't want to just sit there and talk about themselves. They don't want to just sit there and listen to each and every part of your work, your career or your work experience. They want to, if you really want to get their attention, just focus on that one thing, right? And that is how you can help them achieve what it is they want to achieve, right? Whether it's solving a problem, achieving an outcome, et cetera, et cetera. Now, you definitely want to, if you want to get this intel, you definitely want to leverage your point of contact prior to the interview. That's extremely, extremely important. especially if you're being represented by a staffing agency. You should be able to leverage this prior to your interview. You also want to make sure you study the job description. The job description oftentimes can give you a lot of clues as to what the key problem areas are in relation to the role. And also you can gather intel at the interview itself, right? This is one of the best parts of the interview is you don't have to wait until the very end to ask your questions unless it's a highly formalized interview. There's no problem with you asking questions in between and trying to better understand the project, what they're trying to achieve, the deliverables and all that stuff. And that will put you in a better position to understand, okay, this is what they want me to do. This is what they want to achieve as part of this project or this job. And that'll help you make adjustments and pivots in terms of what you need to focus on, what projects you need to be talking about from your past experience. And the relevance is it pretty much comes down to the relevant stuff, right? Like you don't need to be talking about all of your experience. You need to be talking about the key stuff that is relevant to them, right? I was going to talk about this analogy, but maybe I'll get to that in the Q&A. If those of you are curious, feel free to ask me in the Q&A, but I want to move ahead with the presentation. Just so that because we're kind of tight on time. But look, finally, you got to position yourself as the solution, right? Ultimately, that's what it is. I use the term job seeker, but really all of you should not be referring to yourself as job seekers. You're not a job seeker. You're a solution provider. You're a problem solver. That's what you're doing. That's why they're looking to invest money in you to come on board, to join their company, because they need your help in solving a solution. You're the expert in that scenario, right? That's why they need you. They don't have the current resources. They don't have the current bandwidth. So you're the solution. You're the solution provider. You're the problem solver, right? And that's the way you got to think about yourself. That should be your mental, how you're seeing yourself when you're preparing for the interview and during the interview as well. You're a problem solver, a solution provider. And always show interest through follow-up after your interviews. Send a thank you note, show interest, let them know you're highly interested in the opportunity. If you don't hear back from them, within a week, feel free to send them an email follow-up or a LinkedIn follow-up. If you're connected with them on LinkedIn, let them know, hey, I'm really interested in the opportunity, really enjoyed meeting with you. Just wanted to follow up and find out, when would you like me to come in for the next conversation? Or, what are the next steps in the process? So there's nothing wrong with showing interest, right? You want to show interest through your follow-up. So I wanted to end the segment by talking real quick about leveraging tech recruiters, because look, for the majority of you, most of your conversations will be with tech recruiters. And I did a quick survey on my LinkedIn where about 180 people voted. And I asked people, look, when you're thinking back on all the organizations you interviewed with, who was your first interview and conversation with in the process? And 59% of the people who participated in this survey said with the recruiter, right? The recruiter was the first point of contact. So you have to be really, really give a serious consideration to how you structure your conversations with recruiters, because it's obviously a very important part of the process, because in 59% of cases of people out there, that's their first interaction is with the recruiter, right? Now, that being said, you want to make sure that you understand the function of recruiters, right? A lot of you and maybe not all of you, but a lot of times people have this misunderstanding that the job of the recruiter is to help you find a job, but that is not the function of a recruiter. The primary function of a recruiter is not to help you find a job. The primary function of a recruiter, first and foremost, is to help the hiring team find talent for the positions that the hiring team is looking to hire for. That is the primary function, right? It's a key distinction there. And the reason I mentioned this is the degree to which a recruiter can help you or not is highly dependent on whether or not they have anything in their pipeline that they're recruiting on, which is a match for your skill set, right? So the degree to which a recruiter can help you is highly dependent on what they're actively recruiting on. So always remember this in regards to recruiters. So don't think that, when a recruiter doesn't respond to you, or when they say, oh, I'm not recruiting on anything that's a match for you right now, and you're wondering, hey, so why aren't they helping me find a job? It's because the recruiter has no control over what jobs are available. They don't create the job, right? The hiring team, they're the ones who create the job and create the need for the job. So that's the point I'm trying to make here. Now, those of you who are in tech, obviously you want to focus your networking efforts with tech recruiters. But that being said, that does not mean every single tech recruiter out there is going to be able to help you. There are some tech recruiters out there who focus mostly on certain key skill sets, right? There might be tech recruiters out there who mostly recruit on software development roles, other tech recruiters out there who mostly focus on business analyst roles, project management roles, et cetera, et cetera. So through your networking, you got to ask the recruiter when you're communicating with them, when you're networking with them, you got to ask them, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Recruiter, typically what kind of positions do you recruit on, right? And that'll give you an idea on whether it makes sense for you to continue to network with this person or whether you should shift your focus to other tech recruiters out there. Now, a special quick note for those of you who are new graduates as well as career transitioners. In most cases, you should focus your networking efforts with corporate recruiters, okay? Not staffing agency recruiters. Staffing agency recruiters, for the most part, we typically recruit on positions that are at the intermediate to senior level, right? So if you're a new graduate, you're a career transitioner, you're transitioning into a new career, you don't have previous work experience in a certain field, you should focus your networking efforts with corporate in-house recruiters. So these are recruiters who work internally at the companies that you want to work for. That'll be the best use of your time. The reason why staffing agencies are not going to respond to you is, again, like I mentioned, we mostly work on intermediate to senior level positions. And if you're a new graduate or if you're a career transitioner, you don't have previous work experience, unfortunately, we're usually not able to help you with the positions we recruit on because our clients expect us to find people with previous experience. So focus your efforts on corporate in-house recruiters. Running recruiters through your resume, just a quick note on that, just a kind of a heads up to everyone out there. I do have a free PDF I give out, so feel free to connect with me afterwards on LinkedIn or just message me on LinkedIn. I'll hook you up with that PDF. It's actually a script that'll help you where I actually let you know how you should run recruiters through your resume. All right. Unfortunately, I won't have enough time to run through that on this presentation. So feel free to message me, or what I can do is maybe Temi or Osita, I'll email it to you guys, and you guys can distribute it to the group. So not an issue there, but it's a script you can use when you're running recruiters through your resume. All right. So that should help you folks out there. And yeah, it's very important for you to make a great first impression, right? Remember, recruiters are representing the interests of the hiring team. So in order for you to get past the recruiter and get in front of the hiring team, you got to make a great impression on the recruiter. So take your meeting, take your interview with the recruiter very, very seriously. Prepare for it just like you would prepare for any interview with the hiring manager, because your task is to make a fantastic first impression so that the recruiter is like, hey, wow, this person just really impressed me. I definitely want to present them to the hiring team, right? That should be your goal. And set the communication expectations as well as the rules of engagement, right? Let the recruiter know, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Recruiter, can I expect feedback from you? Can I expect follow-up? Can I follow up with you? How frequently can I follow up with you? Feel free to ask these questions from the recruiter, and they will give you a clear, transparent answer in most cases as to how often they would expect you to follow up, and whether or not you can expect them to provide feedback, how soon can you expect them to provide feedback, et cetera, right? So final note on this is, look, never depend solely on recruiters to find a job. As great as it is to use recruiters, definitely we can help you skip the ATS. Definitely we can help you get your resume in front of hiring teams out there. That being said, it should be one of your channels, right? Remember that little thing I drew. It should be only one of your channels, right? Never depend solely on recruiters. Never depend solely on recruiters as part of your job search strategy. Recruiters should be just one avenue you're using as part of your job search, right? You should also be using, again, like I mentioned here, LinkedIn, directly applying, networking, brand building on social media, networking events, industry events. You should be using every other avenue possible, so you're adding some diversity to your job search as well. So that being said, keep building relationships with recruiters, all right? Yes, there will be disappointments. Yes, there will be recruiters who unfortunately conduct themselves unprofessionally, unfortunately. But that does not mean you should bypass and not consider recruiters at all. It's a great way to get yourself in front of their clients, in front of hiring teams. And it's a great way for you to have someone else handle most of the communication, the coordination, negotiation, salary negotiation, and all that stuff. But just make sure you have these realistic expectations in mind, all right? So it looks like I made it right at the dot at 9 o'clock. I was able to do that. So forgive me, folks. I try to compress as much as possible into 45 minutes. But I'm happy to get into the Q&A right now, and I'll drop the link to my social. So those of you who want to connect with me on social can do that as well. With that being said, I'll hand it over to Temi and Osita to coordinate the Q&A, I guess.
Wow, that was mind-blowing. Thank you so much for You were just dropping gems, on the fly there.
Thank you.
Right. Just on my side here, a couple of notes. The first one that resonated very well with me, if you don't mind me sharing, was the fact that the fundamental challenge of your job search is not lack of ability or even talent, right? And I
Exactly.
think that's what a lot of us face. The first rejection letter you get or response you get, you think, oh, there's something wrong with me. I'm not doing the right thing, right? And then you start
That's
second
right.
guessing yourself. So it's good that you kind of touched on that, and so many things you dropped here that even if you Google, you wouldn't even know what to search with to get this kind of search result from Google to start off with, right? And you get gems like this from sessions like this pretty much. So thank you so much for that mind-blowing less than 45 minutes, I would even say, but thank you, Dean. Yeah, we've got about 28 minutes to run through questions. I see some already in the chat, so I'm just going to run through them very fast. Please keep the questions coming. We'll try to get at every one of them, but let's see how many questions we can cover. The first question I see here, Isaac is asking, can you please advise what font size are to be used on the resume? So I don't know, Dean, do you want to take that question based off what you've seen? Would you recommend like a size 10, like a size 12? Or is there like a one size fit all font size people should be using? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, sure. So I think Isaac, you said Isaac asked that question. So Isaac, great question there. So typically I would suggest sticking to a font size of 11. Now it can depend on the font. I would say stick to, Arial, Calibri, or what's the other one? Verdana or Times New Roman. But yeah, keep it to, I would say size 11 font size.
Awesome. Thanks for that. I see Stephen had a question here, but I don't quite get that question. Can you solve the problem? Thank you, Dean. I don't know if that's a question or a comment. So if you want to maybe unmute yourself and ask that, that would be awesome. Just scrolling through here. Thank you. Thank you. A lot of thank you coming in here.
Yeah, that's awesome. No, I'm so happy I was able to provide, some tips for all you folks. Yeah, but I think what, Temi, I think what Stephen is referring to is, I think that part where I was talking about, position yourself as a problem solver. So
Right.
I think Stephen was just reiterating that, whether or not you can solve the. So yeah, Stephen, great comment there. You definitely have to show that you can solve the problem. Exactly.
Right. Thanks for that context. We move on to the next question here. This one is from Zara. She's asking, why do companies ghost candidates even after the third round of interviews? This one I'm curious to know because it happens to a lot of us. And what are your thoughts, Dean?
Yeah. So firstly, Zara, I mean, it's firstly, it's a terrible thing, right? Especially when you've invested time and effort into preparing and, put so much excitement and enthusiasm for interviewing with this company. And I think it's a terrible practice that companies do. And unfortunately, folks, for most of you out there, unfortunately, I have to say, you will experience this, right? Now, why companies do this? I mean, it could depend on the company. Sometimes it's because, frankly, they don't have respect for the candidates. Could be because, they already made their decision. They don't feel like they owe the candidate an explanation. But in other cases, it could be simply because they might have a policy that they're not allowed to share feedback or provide any feedback. Some companies have experienced lawsuits from candidates after providing feedback and stuff like that. So some companies are very cautious about that. So because of that, they'd rather risk just ghosting people and not providing feedback. But that being said, like especially for, working on the staffing agency side of things, like these are some of the things that we have to do with our clients is we really have to drive home that, hey, we want feedback for our candidates, right? And unfortunately, sometimes some of our clients don't provide the feedback, regardless. And unfortunately, it results in situations like this, just like you're saying, Zara, right? So unfortunately, it does happen. But my advice is, if a company is treating you like that in the interview process, I mean, they're probably not a very good company to join in the first place, right? I mean, if that's how they're treating you as not being an employee, I would have to say that that's a bad impression in terms of how they might be treating people who are employees. So I would say take it as a positive and just, move on to other companies that value your time, that respect you, and that are going to give you that acknowledgement and feedback.
Yeah, that was powerful. Thanks for sharing that, Dean. Another question I have here, this one is from Debola. He or she goes, what skills would you highlight or do you need to have, or something like that, if you're transitioning from a manual tester to a data analyst. Self-studying on, I think this person is probably doing DIY on Coursera or something, but he or she is looking to know those transferable skill sets that can help, him or her excel as a data analyst pretty much.
Okay, got it. Yeah, so Debola, my advice to you would probably be, you really got to look at what are the transferable, like what is the intersection between a data analyst, a manual tester and a data analyst. Like you got to figure out what do both of these have in common, right? I don't know, maybe it's something to do with data, maybe it's something to do with certain processes, maybe it's to do with the educational aspects. I don't know, like you got to focus on, okay, what can I use as a manual tester that I can bring into the role of a data analyst, right? That is really what you had to focus on. And if you're doing a self-studying course, I think they mentioned they're doing a self-studying course, then you got to leverage more of that as well, right? So maybe it's the case where, well, Dean, manual testing and data analysis, like I don't have much I can use as transferable skills. Then you got to use the course that you're doing on Coursera, right? So when it comes to leverage, folks, everyone out there, like you got to leverage each and every possible angle that you can bring to the table, right? So hopefully that helps, Debola, and let us know in the comments.
Yeah, and in addition to that, if I might just add my one sense, I probably would say even soft skills, right?
Yes,
your
absolutely.
skills, listening skills, because if you're a manual tester, you're probably getting requirements from certain people, and then you transitioning to data analysis. You're interpreting data, but you need to get that information from somewhere. You need to ensure you're hearing well, and then you're communicating very well. So those two are probably a very good, one to take off. And then your presentation skills as well, you need to polish that, because as a data analyst, you're going to be presenting data in different flavors, right? So you need to ensure you have your A game right there.
Yeah, great point, Tammy. Very, very good point. Absolutely, very important.
Yeah. Thanks. Moving on, Lucky is asking, is there a maximum amount of projects to add as an aspiring junior developer?
Yeah, so Lucky, my advice in regards to that is, I would say it's less the number of projects and more so the relevance of the project. So this is where you might have to customize your resume or what you want to talk about based on the role, right? So let's say as a junior developer, you worked on, XYZ projects, right? And the role that you're applying for, it's more so, X types of projects. So that means you should focus on mentioning those projects that fall into category X, right? Whatever X is. So it's more so, I would say, less about the number of projects and more so about relevance. But that being said, if you also feel like, okay, they want to know that I'm experienced as a junior developer and I've done a multitude of different types of projects, well, maybe then you want to mention maybe, again, a couple of projects that demonstrate certain abilities as a developer, certain skills as a developer, or knowledge with certain things. So I would say, the context does matter, Lucky, and also the relevance. Pretty much it comes down to relevance.
Thanks for that. Peter has an interesting question here. He's asking, is there a case of, and I think I hear this a lot as well, is there a case of overqualification? Do we need to reduce our qualifications sometimes when applying for certain jobs, especially for people that are looking to transition to another sector? Is given an example here that if, for example, someone has a master's degree and the position maybe warrants only like a BSc, for example, should he or she like belittle himself to get that job?
Yeah, great question. So Peter, shout out to Peter. That's a great question, Peter. So again, I think the key here is relevance, right? I mean, if a master's degree is not required for the role, should you mention it on your resume? I mean, it depends. Like some hiring managers, and unfortunately, I've experienced this where some hiring managers, they don't have a master's degree themselves and they feel intimidated by a candidate who does have a master's degree. You got other hiring managers. They're like, okay, this person has a PhD, this person has a master's, and they're gonna feel a little bit, intimidated by you. So I would say, to a certain degree, Peter, you got to look at it on a case-by-case basis. And I would say, again, the focus comes on relevance, right? Am I communicating on my what I'm communicating on my resume? Is it relevant to the role that I'm applying for? Is it relevant to the team that I might be a part of? And just a quick note on this whole thing about overqualification. Understand, folks, the issue is not the fact that you're overqualified. It's not the problem most hiring teams have with this whole overqualification thing is not that you know too much or you have too much experience or anything like that. the key issue with this whole overqualified thing is their real concern is this person going to stick around? That is the key issue that you need to be addressing, because they're I mean, what's on their mind is when you're such a you have so many qualifications, so much experience, what they're wondering is, well, is this person just using us as a stepping stone, and then as soon as something more up to par with their qualification comes, they're going to leave us? That is their concern. That is the unspoken concern, right? They're not going to tell you that to your face. They're not going to say, oh, well, Temi, we're just worried that you're going to join us, and then you're going to get your experience, and then something more in line with your experience comes and you're going to leave us. They're not going to tell you that, but that is the underlying concern. So when you're talking about in these situations, when you're applying for these roles, you have to communicate to them why this position with their company makes sense for you as a career move. That is the key, right? The problem is not you're overqualified. The problem is they're afraid you're going to leave as soon as something better comes along. So that is the key challenge there. So hope that helps everyone out there in regards to that.
Yeah, you couldn't have said that any better. That was spot on. Anthony has a question here. He's asking, what transferable skills can an individual transitioning from sales, which is a non-tech role, into UI design? So he's looking to know what transferable skills can he bring from sales into UI UX design.
Oh, okay. So Anthony, great question there, right? So on, work as someone working in sales versus someone who's looking to get into product design. Again, comes down to transferable. Like, you got to look for that intersection, right? The intersection where both intersect. And for me, what I'm thinking is that, and I've worked in sales. I haven't worked in product design, but what I'm thinking that both of those types of positions have in common is, dealing with customers, dealing with end users, dealing with stakeholders, right? As a salesperson, you're trying to understand what the customer's needs are, what they're trying to accomplish, and then you suggest the right product and all that stuff. That is probably what you want to leverage into the product design role, because in the product design role, you're probably dealing with end users, stakeholders, clients, customers. You're helping them, with the product design and what they want to accomplish with the product they want design and stuff like that. So I would say that would be the transferable part, right? That is the part where you can say, hey, yes, I'm coming from sales. And I don't know, Anthony, if you've taken some courses in product design, but you can leverage that as well. And you can let them know, look, I have plenty of experience working in, coming from sales, dealing with customers and stakeholders and helping them evaluate what the ideal solution would be for them, and then helping them move through the cycle, the process, and blah, blah, blah. And that's what I bring to the table for a product design role as well. In fact, because you're someone who's worked in sales, you probably have, phenomenal people skills. I would assume that you have excellent people skills, excellent communication skills, excellent problem solving skills, excellent, conflict resolution, right? Dealing with multiple stakeholders, and each of the stakeholders have different agendas and things on their mind, and you somehow make it happen. I mean, those are the things that you can definitely leverage, I think, into a product design role.
Yeah. If you don't mind me just chiming in here as well, that people skills, I mean, that's the only thing you need to get going, right? If you can make whatever you're selling believable, do same with your UI, UX design as well. It doesn't get any better than that. Moving on to the next question. This one is from Reedy. I think it's Reedy. She's asking, I'm completing MBA soon and looking to transition current in tech sales from farmer sales. Is this a realistic goal? What positions should I focus on?
Okay, got it. So Kriti, I see Kriti's question here. So Kriti, you're transitioning from a career in tech to tech sales from pharma sales. Is this a realistic goal? What position should I focus? Yeah, absolutely, Kriti. I mean, if you're coming from a sales position, I mean, the fundamentals to selling are pretty much the same across the board. Now, maybe I don't know much about pharma sales as an industry. Like, I'm not sure what it's like in pharma sales. Maybe the cycle, the sales cycles are maybe, I would assume maybe longer, or maybe it's kind of different. But I mean, the fundamentals of selling are the same across the board, right? I mean, the great thing about sales is if you can sell in one industry, in one sector, you can pretty much sell in any other sector you want. And definitely that's the case for tech and technology as well. So again, it comes down to, just leverage that existing sales experience you have, and just communicating that for a tech sales role. I mean, the only difference is maybe you have to learn the tech products, or, depending on the company, they have their own training program and stuff like that. But I think it's a very realistic goal. I don't think there's any issues with that.
Yeah, thanks for that. Kola is asking, is there a thing about hiring managers preferring Canadian education to foreign education? So he's just bothered and he's looking to see if maybe having a diploma from a Canadian institution would give him a better leverage. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so Kola, my response to that is, in the majority of cases, and I would say, 95% of the time, hiring managers are more concerned with, hey, can Kola do the job? That is the key thing that the hiring manager is wondering, right? Now, there is a small percentage of hiring managers out there, they graduated from, I don't know, Humber College, so they like other people from Humber College. They graduated from Waterloo or York University or University of Toronto. They definitely prefer candidates from this. I don't know, for whatever reason, there are a small minority of people like that. But for the most part, I mean, what they want to know is, does Kola have the ability to do what's needed to be done in this role? So I would say it's not much of a big deal, Kola. Like if you graduated from a different country and you have a degree or a diploma from a different country, as a recruiter, like I've recruited, and mostly I recruit on intermediate to senior level roles. Usually, I mean, it's the experience, the professional experience that is the most important. I've rarely ever, come across a hiring manager who said, "Hey, Dean, it's a great candidate, but they don't have Canadian education." Like I personally have never experienced that. Yes, maybe there are people out there, unfortunately, who do have that kind of a viewpoint, but it's a very small minority. So I would say not an issue, Kola, as long as you can communicate your ability to do what's needed to be done on the job.
Right. Yeah, at the end of the day, I guess it's all hinged around communication, right?
Yes.
Don't be
Yes.
scared to communicate. And you said something earlier when you were presenting, communicate with confidence, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so that's very key takeaway. I believe all of us should, if you haven't taken anything off, away from today's topic, communicate with confidence. It will take you a long way. Dean, a lot of people, they're really feeling this, your presentation. I mean, you have so many accolades just tripping in here. So it looks as if you've done a good job today.
Awesome.
Moving on to the questions I've got here. Dami is asking, do we have to present job experiences from way back, like right after school experience, or should we keep it at the most recent 1 to 2 past job description, just to eliminate what is not necessary on the resume? If you don't mind, maybe before you take a stab at this, I would just add my own few comments here.
Absolutely.
Some days it's best to just look at relevant skill sets from maybe a past job, and you're ensuring that's exactly what you're putting in your resume. So experiences that won't that don't align to the job description that's been posted by the recruiter, some days it's just best to take them out and then keep your resume sweet and short. But then again, just like Dean mentioned earlier on, that if you've got wealth of experience and you feel it's going to still help you sell yourself better, why not if not, right? So at the end of the day, I'm not the IT recruiter here. I'm not coming for your job, Dean. So yeah, feel free to chime in here.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with what you're saying, Temi. And yeah, I mean, look, I think another key takeaway from this session, folks, is relevance, right? It all comes down to relevance, like in terms of what you want to put on, what you want to mention, all that stuff, like what you got to ask yourself, whether it's your resume, whether it's what projects you're going to talk about at the interview, whether it's what you want to highlight to the recruiter when they tell you about the role and they tell you, and they say, "Hey, so can you tell me about yourself?" It all comes down to relevance, really. I think that's the key takeaway here from today's conversation. It's all about relevance. Like always ask yourself, is this information relevant? Is this part of my resume relevant? Like, is this relevant to the recruiter? Is this relevant to the hiring team? That is the key thing. If you want to really get someone's attention, just focus on what's relevant to them. And I think that goes for any area of life. In fact, I would say.
Yeah, thanks for that. Next question here. Someone is asking, what are the best ways to find the in-house recruiters? What platforms, if possible? Before you take this one, I probably would say you're maybe on one of the right platforms. NIPCA, that's exactly what we stand for. We're looking to help, just ensure our members are well positioned, right? So a good one would be attending like masterclass sessions, either the one we have bi-weekly or the Black Tech ones, right? You get to meet recruiters and so many people that can help you grow in your career, right? But I don't know if you've got a site people need to go to, Dean. If you want to share that, that would be awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, folks, the easiest place is just, LinkedIn. It's such an amazing platform. And it's as simple as, go to the company, the company page for the company you want to apply for, that you want to work for. And if you go to the employees list, I mean, it lists all the employees right there, and you can get
Right.
names, you can connect with the recruiter, you can send them a direct message after connecting. And especially if it's a recruiter special, because some companies, they have internal recruiters that are tech recruiters, like they only recruit on tech roles. So even if they're not recruiting on something right now, they're usually very open to connecting with new candidates, because they specialize in tech, even internally at the company they work for. So they see you as a potential hire, and maybe for some roles in the future. So LinkedIn is, the best place for that as well. And groups like this, this is a great group. NIPCA, obviously, for example, today you got to meet me, and I'm sure I'll be able to connect with many of you. And who knows, maybe I can help you land yourself a job at some point in the future, right? So stay close to this group. It's a great group as well.
Yeah, thanks for that, Dean. Obi is asking salary negotiations. This one is a bit sensitive, right? It's saying that it can get very tricky sometimes, which is true. Unfortunately, some recruiting agency lowball potentially, new hires, and he's asking, what's your advice to avoid getting lowballed?
Yeah. So Obi, unfortunately, yeah, I totally know what you mean. Now, the first thing it comes down to is how confident are you about how much you should be making. That is very, very important and very key. Are you doing your research? Do you know exactly how much someone with your skills, your experience should be making in the marketplace? You have to back this up with information and research and data as well. And by the way, just a heads up to for those of you out there, one of the sources you can use is most major staffing agencies. They release an annual salary guide, right? So if you most of the major agencies, meaning I think Robert Half, I think Randstad does, they release an annual salary guide every year. So that might be a source that you can use to figure out, hey, what kind of a salary should I be making? What's the average for someone with my years of experience? So you got to do your research, right? And the second thing is communicating with confidence, right? So how it's and everyone's heard this, right? It's not just what you say, but how you say it, right? So if you say, oh, well, I should be making, I'm looking for, and if you're not communicating it confidently, that'll have an effect on the other person's perception of you as well, right? I know it's not fair. Look, it's not fair. Life, hey, it's not fair all the time, right? So you got to be able to really say it with confidence. You got to say, Dean, I'm looking for $100,000 a year, right? So you got to be able to, I know this is going to sound kind of silly, but literally, folks, stand in front of the mirror and practice asking for your salary, whatever your range is. Practice it over and over and over again. So it's almost like, clockwork. You're just practicing how you're going to ask for your salary. How are you going to dictate what salary you're looking for? And that would probably be the second component, because how you say it, I mean, that's going to make a difference, right? If they feel like, you sound a little bit, not so confident, you sound like you're a little bit flexible, that's when they're going to see if they can get you in for something lower or try to lowball you as well.
Right. No, that's very apt. Someone is also, Bio is asking, what are your thoughts of having salary range posted on the job ad? And I think we all see this from time to time. You see a job, they go maybe 50 to 80K per annum. What are your thoughts around, how to negotiate when one stumbles on that sort of advert?
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm 100% all for salary. Like, I think all job postings should have a salary range on it, because I think it just saves everyone time, right? And it prevents people from applying for jobs where the salary is too low and it's not in their range. And in terms of what rate you present yourself at, I mean, again, it goes back to your research and how much you feel you should be making. And also, if you're being represented by an agency, typically, I mean, that should be a conversation you should have with your agency representative, right? They will give you an idea of how much their client's budget is, whether it's the same as what they put on the job posting. And yeah, I mean, it's more of a case-by-case basis kind of thing, right? But again, it comes down to how confident are you about what you should be making, and whether or not you're going to be able to hold your ground when it comes to that conversation, and they're asking you, so how much do you want us to present you at, right? So you got to be able to communicate that with confidence.
Right. And then just to add, quickly to what you've just said there, and I do this from time to time. Some days when I see a particular ad or I'm being asked for like first, second interview, I just go to Glassdoor, right? And I look at reviews from either past employees or current employees in the organization. That gives you an idea of what to expect in terms of salary range. Because some days you might find out that even the salary that's been posted, you're able to negotiate for more, right? It's all about communicating with that confidence, right? So, my advice will also be don't sell yourself short. The more information you have about the company and the role, the better for you, right? So, please, let's use the resources we've got around us. I'm mindful of time here. I know we've got about 4 minutes to go. A lot of thank you, fantastic sessions just tripping in. And I see you dropped your social media info here as well. Thank you for that, Dean. We probably will be wrapping up here. Thanks, Peter, for the compliments. I just want to say a very big thank you, Dean. This has been a very, very insightful session. This is the kind of session people pay money for, right? And we're all getting it on the platter of gold here. We couldn't have, asked for any better or informative session. So thank you very much. Although this was kind of like a last minute thing. I wish a lot of people know so many activities that happen behind the scenes to, make this sessions happen. But, this sort of outcome kind of, it's a big thank you in disguise, right? So thank you for just, despite the short notice, still coming to speak to us. We're not taking this for granted. I just want to say thank you. If we all don't mind, we like to do this at the end of our sessions. We would like to take a group photo. Please, if you're not too busy, can you please turn on your camera? We'd like to take a group picture.